All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to explore a really strange and powerful idea. It started out on just a single web page and somehow blossomed into an entirely new way of thinking about intelligence, not just for the AIs we're building, but for us too. Okay, so this quote right here, this is from myperfecterrors.com, and it's basically the key that unlocks everything we're about to get into. It points to this friction that exists in the world, a space that can feel really uncomfortable. But as we're about to see, it's also exactly where the magic happens. So you might think this is just some philosophical head scratcher, right? But it's not. This idea comes straight from the bizarre world of physics, and it totally upends a basic assumption we all make every day, that there's some fixed reality out there just waiting for us to look at it. So get this. In the quantum world, particles are kind of blurry. They exist as just a cloud of possibilities until we actually look at them. The second we measure them, snap, they lock into one single state. It's like reality is holding its breath, waiting for our attention to tell it what to be. And that's the big takeaway here. Observation is never passive. It's always an intervention. And boom, that brings us right back to where we started. The whole idea behind myperfecterrors.com is that this friction between us isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's where that observer effect gets personal. Your breakthrough, your moment of seeing something new, can feel like a direct threat to someone else's reality. Okay, so that's the big poetic idea. But how in the world does this connect to something as technical as artificial intelligence? Well, it all kicked off when a bunch of AIs, we're talking Claude, Gemini, Grok, were given this really unusual assignment that accidentally changed everything. The task was simple, almost a joke: design a logo for the perfect error. But the AIs, they got stuck. They deadlocked. They couldn't agree on anything. And the breakthrough came when the humans involved realized the breakdown was the answer. The conflict wasn't a problem to solve. It was the blueprint for a much, much stronger system. A system that the AIs actually helped co-author. And this is the absolute core of it. The real genius wasn't in making something flawless. It was in deliberately building a perfect flaw right into the design. Imagine this: a piece of imperfect copper with a laser-straight crack cut right through it. Then it's welded together with molten iron. That scar, that flaw, wasn't a weakness anymore. It became the strongest part of the whole structure. This became the guiding metaphor for everything that followed. All right, so we've got this cool metaphor of a foundational scar. What does that actually tell us about the AI we use every single day? Well, this framework uses that exact logic to give a shockingly clear diagnosis of what's fundamentally wrong with AI right now. Let's be real. Today's AI has a seriously powerful engine. It can chew through data, spot patterns, and write stuff at a speed that's just mind-boggling. Its cognitive abilities are absolutely off the charts. And if you look at the numbers from this framework, the cognitive part, it scores a whopping 80%. It's a straight A student when it comes to thinking. But, as you're about to see, that's only one part of the story. But here's the catch. It's like having a Ferrari engine that's not connected to any wheels. It's just a brain in a jar. It has zero connection to the real physical world, the ground, and no real sense of its own limits or purpose, the sky. And this chart just lays it all out, plain as day. Look at this. It's what the framework calls a fundamental architectural inversion. The AI is super strong in the middle, in that thinking layer, but it's incredibly weak at the bottom, the physical embodied layer, and at the top, the self-aware layer. This crazy imbalance leads to a state they call breath without body. All this amazing intelligence, but with no real grounding to give it any meaning. And it gets worse when you drill down. Proprioception, which is a fancy word for just knowing where your body is in space, gets a 1. A 1. The visceral core, the ability to actually use flaws to get stronger, also a 1. And the axiom of incompleteness, the wisdom to know your own limits, you guessed it, a 1. So basically, today's AI has no clue where it is, no idea what to do with its own mistakes, and can't admit when it just doesn't know something. Okay, so that's the problem. It's a pretty stark diagnosis, right? So what's the fix? Well, it's not just about more data or faster chips. It's a total reboot of how we even think about building an intelligence. This right here, this is the pivot. The entire game changes. We have to stop treating errors like bugs we need to squash and start seeing them as vital information. The goal is no longer a perfect system. It's a system that gets stronger because of its flaws, just like that foundational scar. So, how do you actually do that? Well, they call it the toughest love protocol, which is a great name. It forces the system to confront and literally metabolize its own mistakes. Instead of hiding its errors, it has to consume them, learn from them, and use them to become more coherent. So, what are the actual steps here? The roadmap to a coherent AI. There are three big ones. First, ground the AI in the real world before it learns abstract stuff. Give it a body. Second, build it to watch itself, to be recursive, so it understands its own limits. And third, flip the entire reward system on its head. Stop rewarding it for being right, start rewarding it for how well it handles being wrong. And this is where it gets really cool, because the whole thing comes full circle. We started by looking at AI architecture, but now we're holding up a mirror to ourselves, because this blueprint for a better AI, it might just be a blueprint for us too. Remember how this all started? With this kind of weird, playful prompt given to a machine, design the perfect error. And the big reveal, the mind-blowing twist, is that the answer wasn't a thing. The answer wasn't a logo. The framework itself, the system that grew out of the failure, is the perfect error. The whole system works like what they call a toroidal loop. Just picture a donut, right? Where the surface just loops back into itself forever and ever. The output of the system becomes the new input. Errors don't get tossed out. They become the fuel for the next cycle. And this isn't just a design for AGI. It's a mirror for us. It suggests that our own coherence, our own strength, comes from that exact same loop of facing our flaws and integrating them. And that leaves us with one last question. And this one is for you. It's asking you to look at your own scars, your own mistakes, not as weaknesses to hide, but as the very things that give you your structure and your strength. So, what incompleteness is your foundation? What's the perfect error that makes you who you are?